Hi and I'm welcome to the next lesson in our unit on the growth of Arab nationalism. This week we'll be thinking about the Treaty of Versailles and how it impacted the Middle East. The starter questions I would think about is, what do you know already about this treaty? We've definitely mentioned it before in the past. It came at the end of the First World War and it obviously affected lots of different parts of the world, lots of different countries. So in the starter box, put anything and everything you might know. If it's wrong, it doesn't matter. It's just a good way of us understanding what you know already and how much you might learn today. So we're thinking about why many Arab nationalists felt betrayed by the major European powers in 1919. So you should all be able to describe which territories became mandates and who ruled them. So that will mean that you'll need to know what a mandate was, but also you'll be able to have to find out where were they and who was going to control them. Most of you should be able to explain, well, why did that mean there was Arab anger at the introduction of these mandates to the Middle East? And hopefully some of you can also suggest how the Arabs might react to future Western interventions in the Middle East based on this experience they'd had with the Treaty of Versailles at the end of the First World War in 1919. Okay, keywords: Arab nationalism as ever, this desire to unite all the Arab peoples into a single free state. We've said already it became incredibly popular by the end of the First World War. It's the focus for our unit. You're going to see today about three key political leaders: David Lloyd George, the British Prime Minister, George Clemenceau, the French, and Woodrow Wilson, the American President. These were referred to as the Big Three. And although there were 32 countries invited to the Paris Peace Conference in Versailles to discuss what should happen after the First World War, really, as the leaders of the biggest countries and empires on the winning side of the war at this time, these three men exerted a lot of influence. So you'll have to find out what they actually thought should happen and also how they disagreed with one another. Now, a really key part of today's lesson is a mandate. A mandate means a territory that was to be temporarily ruled by a major European power until it was ready for independence. This was deeply unpopular in the Middle East and in the Arab world because, as you can expect, many people felt they were simply ready for their independence straight away and they didn't need to be looked over by a European power. They saw it as instead another way the European empires were actually trying to exploit and take advantage of the Middle East for their own advantages. So mandate, a really key word for today. So what's the big idea for today's lesson? Well, we'll jump in at the end of the First World War when 32 victorious nations met in Versailles, Paris to discuss what should happen to the losing countries. They were going to be punished. They pretty much decided they were going to force them to pay some money. They were going to reduce their militaries and they were going to take land off them. But it's a very complicated and detailed discussion and they gave themselves quite a few months to discuss that just outside of Paris in a palace at Versailles, which is why we talk about a treaty with the same name. Now, they also discussed how the Ottoman Empire should be broken up in the Middle East and what should happen to them former territories, which is very relevant, obviously, to today's lesson. Arab leaders were very keen to get their independence and their freedom, and so they travelled to Paris to try to persuade the major world leaders that it was now time, after centuries of Ottoman rule, for Arab independence. Would the major world powers listen to the Arab world? And what happened to the Middle East as a result of the peace treaty signed after the First World War? These are big questions that you'll be answering in today's lesson. So there you are. You know what to do now. Get onto the assignment if you haven't done so already. Choose the appropriate level for your ability, easy, medium, or difficult, and answer the questions to the best of your ability. This is a big one for today. It's a big one for world history and understanding the Middle East as well. So really try to find out about the mandates and the Arab reaction to what was agreed at the Versailles Peace Treaty.